your name and where you're from and what you like to crochet. And if you don't mind, how you found this course, like where you like word of mouth or Facebook or an ad somewhere, you know, how you found us. So I'm going to mute and you guys can just unmute yourselves and start introducing yourselves.
I'll go first. You all know me as Sarah, I'm the owner of the Tech Editor Hub. I am not part of the course, but I have thoroughly enjoyed being witness to everything. My favorite type of crochet, this is the most complex thing I've ever made, is just a pillow. I've always wanted to learn how to do garments, but I'm not good at it. So anyway, on to the next person.
I can go next. Hi, everybody. I'm Victoria, and I just do traditional crochet, probably a serial pattern tester, first-time designer. My first pattern got released last week, and my favorite thing to crochet is garments.
I'll go next. So I'm Kathy from Tennessee. And I am a traditional crocheter. I love doing accessories and toys. So like hats, fingerless mitts, things like that. And then, yeah, whimsical things.
I'll go if that's okay. Am I up?
Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, sorry, I'm Karen. I'm outside of Boston in Massachusetts. I actually just started crocheting about 2 years ago during the pandemic. I'm currently really into Tunisian crochet, but I am leaning against my Persian tiles. I don't know if you can see it.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and I found this tech editing crochet class through Instagram. And I love doing just about any kind of crochet, especially if there's pieces to put together.
Okay, so it's my turn. My name is Suzette. I'm a Cuban living in Spain, and I love crochet. I also like knitting, but I'm not so good at it. I need to practice more. So I love crochet, and the thing that I love crocheting the most are garments, mostly like that kind of crochet that is like a knitting look. That looks like knitting, but it's crochet. That's what I love the most. So it takes a lot of time, but I have the textures that I like from knitting, but I can do it like faster because I'm not a good knitter. I need to practice. And I heard from the course because I'm taking that I haven't finished the grading one that I think I found looking for information on the internet or so. I don't remember so well about it.
Mary Lou, you haven't introduced yourself yet, have you? I don't think you have. I think you're on mute.
Okay. No,
Hey.
I haven't. I'm a little bit shy, but I've gotten way behind because I just had surgery and I was working overtime right before that. So I feel bad that I'm so far behind. But I like about any kind of crochet. I've crocheted for over 50 years. I learned about the course actually through a lady in Serbia who I test patterns for. I test a lot of patterns and I love that. I am from Nashville, Tennessee, and right now I just live right outside of Nashville. So I guess that's about it. I just want to get caught up.
No, don't think of yourself as you're behind. We structured this course specifically so you can go at your own pace. And for those who need to review or want to review, you can go back to the beginning. You can just review modules. No, you work at your own pace, whatever's comfortable for you. So you're not behind.
Okay, great.
Sarah, did I hear parakeets behind you? Were you the one that asked me about the parakeets in the first video? Somebody asked me about birds. Okay. In one of the videos, you can hear my children's parakeets shrieking in the background. So, all right, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Just put the hand up in your on your screen and I'll call on you, and you're welcome to use the chat too, as you wish. But I'll go ahead and I'll be quiet so you guys can ask your questions.
I can start. I think as I go through, especially because like as I've gone through the parts of the course so far that I finished, I think I'm on module 6 or 7 right now. The thing that really struck me is like there is sort of a line where it's the tech editor's job to kind of find and locate all these errors and things that might happen, but there's also the job of testers and what they kind of locate and find. And obviously like the grammatical stuff, the numbers, those are things we should be catching. I'm curious how you present that line of what testers should be finding and identifying versus what a tech editor should be finding and identifying.
Well, sometimes they overlap because I'll have testers come to me with my patterns and say, hey, you're missing a period here, or you've got a number that's missing there. But typically I rely on my tech editor to find all of the grammatical and inconsistencies and numerical errors. And she also checks to make sure that the pattern makes sense and that it makes the thing that I am, writing about. Usually it's knitting for me, but it makes the sock, right? So all the pieces of the sock are there. However, my testers come back and they'll say, hey, I can't get this to fit right, or I don't understand what this means. And sometimes it's just one tester, sometimes it's all the testers will come back and say, yeah, you need to reword this section, or like in my last pattern, you need to add a picture of the other variation in there, because if you're a size small, it looks different than a size large or a size medium. So, they give me ideas to make it better, to make it fit better. But my tech editor is the one that makes sure everything is grammatically and mathematically correct. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Something that just stood out to me in the module I'm just doing, there was a comment in the video about like, we want to make sure the stitch pattern matches what the picture looks like. And that's not something that I'm particularly good at unless I'm physically making something. And that's kind of my big trepidation with tech editing is like, I'm a serial tester. I'm good at finding all these problems when I make the item. So that's my big like shift with this course, is just like, how do I start to envision what that stitch pattern looks like without having to pick up a hook to make the item?
Okay, so I have had that problem in the past. And usually what I do, if I can't visualize it in my head, maybe it's a new stitch pattern or one that's unfamiliar to me, or it's a very large one, sometimes I'll just get a piece of paper and I'll just start charting it just on paper, writing all the stitches, and then take a look at that and take a look at what I've got in a picture and just compare the two. Or I had a wedding garment one time where it had this really pretty drape that went down the back, and I printed the thing off on my color printer and blew it up real big, printed it off, just that section, and then literally went through and marked all of the stitches and compared that picture to what I had in my pattern. Now, they're usually not that complex, but this designer had a lot of errors in the way she wrote her stitches down, like her stitch repeat. So that's why I did that. But Other times I've had my own tech editor. She said, hey, I'm not going to charge you for this, but I'm just going to cast this on and knit this heel and make sure that it works. So just for her own knowledge too. But yeah, if you can visualize it and you can go from there, great. Otherwise, I consider it practice for me, you know, practicing a new stitch pattern. And usually I'll find, you know, dishcloth yarn, because when I'm done making the little swatch of the stitch, then I'll just fasten off and throw it in my washcloths for my dishes for later, you know?
Yeah, totally. And that was linked to my question about testers. Like, is that something a tester should be catching versus a tech editor? Because that's my biggest, like, just learning how to do that visualization without picking up a hook is really the goal.
Yeah, so a good tester will catch that, but not all testers are good testers. So some of them still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, ultimately, the tech editor is the one that you need to rely on to do that final edit on the pattern and make sure that everything is correct. Testers can help, but they're more for fit and wording and clarity issues.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. Kathy, you've been so patient with your hand up.
No problem. Can I follow up on her question before I ask mine?
Sure.
So you said, you know, sometimes you'll have your test knitters, you know, tell you something's not fitting quite right, and you'll have tweaks there. Do you go back to your editor after that process then, if you do make a big change to the pattern during testing?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes. I definitely, now if it's a very small change, just adding a sentence in the pattern, clarifying, like my latest one where I needed to make sure that the knitter knew that the stitch pattern is smaller for the small sock and it's going to be larger for the medium and kind of between for the largest size. I just put a note in there saying, hey, you know, because of the stitch count, we had to adjust it a little bit. And so your size small sock are going to have baby onions. You know, your size medium sock are going to have large onions, and the large is kind of in between. So I didn't run that by her. I probably should have, but you know, published it because I thought it looked fine. But no, if you have a major rework, you definitely want to send it back to the editor. And usually if it's a major rework where I have to re-edit the whole pattern, we start the clock with a new job, you know, like it's a new edit. Now, if it's something very small, I do ask my clients, hey, if you're going to make changes to the pattern, highlight them so that I can just quickly spot them. And most of them do, and they might update like 2 things and send it back, you know, just to re-edit. But usually it's not very time consuming that way. Does that answer your question?
That answers my follow-up. So my actual question when I raised my hand was more about pricing. So, you know I see a lot of, I charge this much per hour with kind of this much minimum, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of making packages. So, you know, for this type of pattern, this is what you're looking at. So I wouldn't have to quote every project. Have you done that? Do you have experience with that?
I have not personally done that because I can get 50 I don't really get 50 sweaters, but say I get 50 sweaters across my desk in a year.
Okay.
You could have anywhere from a simple box, like a boxy design where it's just single crochet and it's a drop shoulder and everything, there's no shaping and everything is extremely simple. And then you can get things that are more like, you know, waist shaping and short rows. I've seen short rows this past year and different stitch patterns and 18 sizes, you know, and I don't know, the sky's the limit, you know, circular yoke with multiple, you know, 18 sizes and every size is different and how to increase or decrease for that yoke. So because you can get such a wide range of complexity of patterns, I usually don't just blanket quote you know, a hat is this or a sweater is that, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, because you can get yourself, you can end up working a lot of hours for free doing that.
Right.
So sometimes it's better just to give a quote, and then the designer knows what to expect up front, and you've got your time frame that you're gonna try to work under.
I don't know if I can jump in real quick because
Please.
if it's okay, estimating is like one of the hardest things to do when you begin
Yes.
tech editing because you don't have any data to work with.
Mhm.
You're learning how you're starting to work faster maybe, but maybe you're not real sure like how long something is going to take. And you don't want to overestimate and like scare them off, and you don't want to underestimate and then short yourself. So as you're beginning taking on clients, I would start a spreadsheet where you keep track of how much time you're spending on certain jobs. So you might say how many pages this job was, maybe the word count or how many charts or whatever. And then just keep track, especially by client. Because if you have repeat clients, you'll get to know this client always takes at least 3 hours for a sweater, or always, this client's super fast. I can get their sweaters done in an hour and a half. And so then as you work, you'll get a better idea of how to estimate. But Kathy, you can start when you first start taking on clients. What you can do is you can say, my base rate for sweaters is X. Like this is my flat rate for sweaters. If it goes over a certain amount of time, then it will be so much per hour. So that kind of gives you some wiggle room too, because when you're first started editing, you might want to take more time. So like, as you're learning, you're slower.
Right.
So you might like say, okay, I'm going to just do a flat rate for sweaters for like 3 months until I get my feet under me. But if it goes way over a certain amount of time, then I'm going to charge them my hourly rate over that. So it will be at least this. So there's a lot of ways that you can approach it creatively. You might also consider, the other thing that some people do is they do a package deal, especially I've seen some tech editors work off of a PayHip site, like where they build their website on PayHip. So they actually have where you can purchase a package from a tech editor. And if you do that, then you might just need to have another way to invoice in case if there is more time that you need to put into the edit. Especially, like I just had somebody send me a sweater and I thought it was going to be a fast 3-hour sweater. It's ending up going to probably be more like 9 hours. And every time I send it back to him, I let him know, hey, this is where we're at with the time. And then my invoice is going to not be a surprise to you. So I don't know if that helps, if that answers some questions.
Thank you.
I'm not sure who had their hand up next. Karen, why don't you go ahead and ask us what your question is?
Okay, I just want to say, Sarah just said a lot of the stuff I was going to say. That was really excellent information. One of the things I've run into with my knitting technical editing is I'll do the pattern. A lot of times they're not very well written. I have to do a lot of pattern writing. And then I noticed this with the second edit on the pullover that we're doing for the courses. There were more sizes in the second edit. There was a lot more information to edit. And if you were doing it by hour, that would work. But if you were doing a package rate, you could really hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. When I first started, I didn't do a package rate, but if I came across something that was brand new to me and I had to really slow down, I would just mark that on my time card, my own little personal time card, and only charge them like half the amount of time. So that's how I work things, because I was twice as slow being a newbie and having to learn whatever technique that it was. But yeah, good idea, Sarah, about keeping a notebook, especially for clients. And I've started with some of my clients, they don't even ask me for a quote. They just hand me a pattern and say, here, just take care of it. Just send it back when you're done. So you might find that happens too. Suzette?
Can you listen me? Because I have like the fan here. It's so hot here in Spain, so it's impossible to be without the fan. Okay, my question is also related to those things, because I've been having like 2 or 3 clients. And my question is it possible that a client doesn't want like a complete or like a deep revision or edition of the pattern? For example, I've been working with someone that is not a designer, it's just starting, it's like the first pattern. And she wanted me to, for the tech editing, of course, if it's not an established designer yet, so the quote is like expensive. It's like expensive. So I was doing what Sarah told before. I made like an estimate and I say, let's see, because just reading at the first time, everything was pretty good, but the maths were awful. So I spent a lot of time with that. And I was doing that, like telling her, I'm taking too much time. It's been this time until now. Do you agree or not? But my question is it possible that I can offer, like in the first conversation, when someone contact me, if it's not a professional, someone that knows the value of that, is someone that is not making so much money yet, that I can offer like the chance of making like a edit, but just, for example, the math, or just the grammar and punctuation. So that they say, okay, I just want like 1 hour because I cannot pay more. I'm Spanish speaking. It's not the same. Crocheters or knitters, it's not the same. It's not so easy to find people that send you something and don't ask for the quotes and just pay everything. So, so I was thinking, but then I feel like I don't like that too much, because then they say, Suzette was a tech editor, and then if there is a lot of errors, they say, you don't did a great thing. It's not like you don't pay me to do everything. So people don't, so I'm like in the middle. Or I thought maybe not getting clients like that are people that are just starting. I don't know. It's like, I want your advice.
That's a tough one, but are you going to want to keep doing that your whole tech editing career, just doing bits and pieces and taking on clients that only want you to edit parts of the pattern? Or,
I don't like that.
Well, then I wouldn't do it. Plus, you are right. If you tech edit only part of a pattern and they have errors all through it and they put your name as the tech editor, then your reputation might be just like, the bad pattern. So the only time that I will tell a client, okay, I won't check this part, is if they have a chart in there where the instructions for the chart are generated by the charting software. And even then, I usually just spot check a couple lines of the chart to make sure that nothing got messed up. I just give it a quick glance, but I don't sit there line by line checking every stitch. That's the only time I, just do part of the pattern, but everything else should be included. Does that answer your question?
So.
Yeah, it's hard. I know. And I feel bad for brand new designers that are trying to get started, but if they want to continue and have good quality patterns, then they're going to have to start correctly, because you only have one reputation to lose. That's as a designer or an editor.
Yeah, I thought myself, the kind of client that I want are designers. So because I like to do things, with that pattern, it was a mess. And I even spent hours trying to, but it's sometimes people say like, it's not like that. My numbers are okay. I'm the tech editor. This is mathematics and exact science. I'm telling you, I have a spreadsheet. So I even did this. I like to do things not perfect, because we are humans. So of course we have mistakes and I'm starting. But I would like to have those kind of clients that are professional. They know the value of this. And
Mhm.
of course, I do it as fast as I can. So I don't want to waste other people time or money. But I was thinking about the reputation. So on the other hand, I say, I know it's better for me to say no to people like that. But it's complicated because I'm just starting as a designer. I'm from a poor country. So it's like you want to help people, but there's need to be a line. I don't know. So
Well,
that's why it confused me so.
and you could think of them as two separate things, as you have your regular clients that are your ideal clients. And then if you want to add, you do a couple edits at a discount price or even for free, kind of like lawyers, they'll take on cases for free. But that's completely up to you. If that's the business model you want, awesome. But
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with wanting your client to be to value what you do and the work that they produce.
Yeah, I agree with that. What I did was because she talked to me for the tech editing, and also I'm a translator, so she wants me to check the translation. And as it was too many hours, I know she's starting. I said, okay, you fix everything after I finish the tech editing, and I'm going to do the translation review for free, like just to help you, just to I don't know, to feel better myself.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
The other thing you might consider, Suzette, is if you really want to have, like, build up the education of your clients. Like, in other words, you know that this designer someday is not going to be brand new. They're going to get their feet underneath them. And maybe in the future, there'll be a fantastic client that can pay you.
Yeah.
You may consider putting together a package that might not cost very much, where they can work through the pattern to check some of the stuff themselves before they send it.
I was thinking about that. Because I had like the pre-edit checklist,
right? Yes.
Newsletter. I was thinking I can make something like this to give it when some people like this contact me. I can give this so they can
and you're welcome to grab one that I've shared with you in any format and translate it and use it that way. Just ask. And the other thing that you might also think is, like what Melissa said, is you make it upfront that you offer a certain amount of new designers, like we're at a discount, like per month, like say I only do 2 a month. Because there's a benefit for you, Suzette, is that you actually get to work on a pattern that's a mess. So you get to hone.
Yeah, that's true.
You get to hone your skills and get better and get faster while working with them. So you could take it as part of your education as learning to be this kind of tech editor. And then at a certain point, you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to continue in the way that I want to go with a higher quality client or whatever. But take it into consideration that I've worked with some of the extremely famous knitwear designers, and their patterns are a mess. So you have to, there is no, sometimes patterns are just a mess, and you're going to have to learn how to communicate with your clients when things are going to take longer. How am I going to do this? You have to start writing this out, this email, or starting to think about, how am I going to talk to them? Like, I've allowed my clients sometimes to do payment plans. I've allowed my client, because it was way out of reach for them when something got to be like a huge, long job. They couldn't afford me anymore. So I did payment plans. I've done other things where we do just part of it until they can sell another pattern to pay for the next part, the next edit. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can do this, but I would change your mindset so that you're beginning how you want to continue. In other words, you want the high quality the high quality clients, but also giving yourself a way to serve others. If that really is part of your business model, that you want to take care of people and help people, find a way to educate them on your website, like by providing free downloads or free information or blog posts like that you can send them to before they come to you with their pattern.
Yeah, it was a training. It was a complete training. It was a very good exercise for me, that tech editing. It was like, I was like crazy, but it was a good, and that at the end of the day, I said, this was good because I'm learning, and those kind of tech editings are the best, I think, at the beginning. And what you say is true. I was also thinking about that, like posting on my blog, content related to that. So when those kind of designers contact me, I can send them, for the information to educate. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. I'm better
So
now.
one more thing, Suzette, is I don't talk about this publicly because it's not a big deal for me, but I do a certain amount of free work every year. And so sometimes I just choose a client I know is struggling, or I know that they're doing their pattern for a charitable organization or something like that, and I'll provide my tech editing for free. I don't publicize it. I don't talk about it on my website or anything like that. But that is something that you could consider if this is a part of your ethos and your heart's desire is to give a certain amount, then that also can be an option, and you can find a way to do that. Though there's lots of opportunities and instances to do
Yeah, I am like in a mentoring coaching group here in Spain with some other new designers, and I've been like doing some tech editing and translations for them, like for free. But as you say, it's like you are not going to be sharing what you do to help people everywhere. But yeah, it's a good idea to practice and just to help, because it's like one day you are starting someone. So even if you have like a lot of clients, one day you were with no clients at all.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
We did have a question in the chat. Let me find it. Okay, how many clients do you have? Trying to get an idea of what a workload might look like. And that was from Sarah. Sarah, do you mean clients in a week, a month, a year, a day? What's your time?
In one of the videos, you just made a comment that you share the work now because you have too many clients.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I chose to go part-time with this because I homeschool my two kids. And I thought as they got older, I would have more time, more free time. No, because I'm now chauffeur. And yeah, so because I'm in that season of life, I chose to go part-time. And this week, I'm thinking I might have had 6 clients this week.
Okay.
But some weeks I'll have 8 to 10, and then some weeks I'll have fewer, and then some weeks I will have clients where I've sent the first edit back, or say the math was a mess. I send them part of the edit and say, I'm stopping here. When you fix this, let me know. So I'll have clients that sort of overlap. But in any given week, maybe 6 clients.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and it also depends on the type of job. If I've got something that might take me 15 minutes, I'll take on more clients for that week. If it's a job where the math is a huge mess and I have to actually read it out loud to make sense of it, I might only take 2 clients that week just so I can fully devote my brain power to that client that needs more help. But yeah, I have a book of clients and I might have 100 names in that book. And some of them come back, Some of them come back with a new pattern, you know, every couple weeks. But then there's some where I have done 1 or 2 edits and I don't hear from them again, so. Sarah probably has a lot more clients than I do because she's in a different season of life. But
No,
But-
you have more than I do.
I do, okay.
I
Thanks.
kind of topped mine off at like 50 because it was just too much for me.
Yeah,
So
well,
here's the
yeah.
thing, Sarah, is what you want to do is decide how many hours a day are your working hours, like when's a good time for your brain to be tech editing, and then plan out like how many jobs can I fit into that without, you know, going crazy. And then that will give you a better idea of what your work week will look like, is
Yeah.
how much can my brain handle?
Victoria, do you have another question?
Yeah, I just kind of listening
Okay.
to the conversation and starting to think about the client piece, because for me, like the actualization of taking people on hasn't really been the firmest part of this. Like I wanted to learn how to do it and make sure that I had the skills because I haven't crocheted for that long. And I just want to make sure that, again, you said the reputation piece, like I would like to do it right. I don't want to go out there and do a bad job at tech editing. So my question is sort of twofold. So the first is just talking about getting started and like building that education, the conversation with Suzette there. Like I was thinking about doing some pro bono work with some people I know first, just to get started, and trying to, like, people I know who do kind of a range of different types of patterns so that I can get my feet wet. Do you think that that's like a good way to make sure that, like, could I offer the pro bono work in exchange for feedback? Like, is that an effective way to work with the designer to get started? Because I don't feel comfortable yet charging for my services in not knowing the quality of them at the moment.
That is an excellent way. That's the way I got started.
Okay.
I actually did a couple edits before I really even knew what tech editing was, that it had a name, for friends in real life. And then I was doing a little bit of tech editing just for them. And then when I got started, I did a few jobs in exchange for a testimonial that I could put on my website. So,
Okay,
and I only took the jobs where I felt comfortable, like confident that I knew what I was doing. I didn't take on a wedding dress as my first client, my first job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also not be doing that. And then the other question, you had mentioned something about being credited on patterns, and this was something that popped into my mind. Is this standard to request from designers, or is it just something they do as a thanks? And if so, have you ever requested to get your name not on a pattern?
That's okay. So I usually credit my own tech editor, just because I know that a person looking at my pattern will feel more confident knowing that I have had a tech editor look at this pattern. I don't ask my clients to put my name on their patterns. If they want to, that's great, but you know, that's up to them.
Okay, cool.
As far
I just wanted to make sure it was that's kind of an awkward conversation to be like, hey.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had a client. I have had a client that I know will not put my name on as the tech editor, because she is the reason that I have my payment policy. Like, if you don't pay your bill, you know, things did not end we did not mutually agree on what she thought I should do for her. But I don't think I've ever had to say, don't put my name on as your tech editor, because usually my client, 99.9% of my clients are great and they will make the corrections and they're happy to have a polished up pattern.
Okay,
So.
cool. I'm just like thinking about, because any business comes with that liability of awkward conversations. And like, that's one that I'm like,
Well,
because
that's
you're right.
fine. Yeah, I don't mind
Yeah,
answering. I'm just trying to think. I've had a lot of clients and there's only one that really stands out as, I know she did not put my name on that pattern. But yeah,
Awesome. Okay,
yeah.
thanks. I have seen it, like I have seen it on patterns and then also not, so that was why it was a curiosity whether or not you need to ask for that, or if that's just something that is a courteous thing that folks do or not.
I think it's just a courteous thing. I'll have clients on Instagram that'll tag me as either the editor or I do grading also. So as the pattern grader, but I don't tell them they have to, but I do tell them in my invoice that if they tag me on Instagram and I share my Instagram handle, that I will share. And so that helps promote their work. So they can choose
Sure.
whether to take advantage of that or not.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Suzette, I think you were up next.
Well, regarding to what Victoria was saying, I started like that. I did it for free and asked like for testimonials to put on the website. And I started like with amigurumis or shawls, not a sweater, you know. My question is, maybe this is like a big question, but when a client contacts you, what do you usually ask them, or what you explain to them in order to make the process easier and the relationship, and to have a good relationship? For example, like they contact you, someone that is the first time, I want to edit this pattern. So what do you ask? What do you explain exactly?
Okay, so I went ahead and I typed up a document so I didn't have to retype the same thing every time. And usually it starts out with greeting them and something personal for them. And then I tell them if I have availability, I tell them I'd be happy to edit their design, and I tell them about the process. And my first, I have numbered. My first number is that they will send me the pattern and anything they think would be helpful. Photos are part of that. They're very helpful in making sure the written instructions produce the design shown. Number two, I take a look at the pattern and I give them an estimate on time. And if they need me to include yarn yardage requirements, say they haven't added that, I can do that, but then I can add that to my estimate as well. Like they have to let me know I need yarn amounts added, or I need charts, or I need schematics added. So they tell me everything they need up front and I give them an estimate. Then three, if the estimate looks good to them, then I get started with the editing, and that gives them the cue to reply to the email, let me know everything looks good. And that kind of, it's not an official contract, but it's a written, yes, this looks good, and yes, I want you to do this work. And then I explain what my editing includes, but it's not limited to things like checking yarn, needles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, everything we went over in the course. And then my fourth point on my email back is when the edit is completely done. When the edit's complete, I send an invoice via PayPal. That's the service I use, to this email address, you know, the future client's email address, unless another email address needs to be used. Sometimes I'll get an email back to use a different email address for the PayPal, which is fine. And then I tell them, my next point, I tell them how much I charge for non-rush jobs, how much for rush jobs. And then the terms for payment, like if the invoice is not paid in 30 days, a 10% interest fee is added weekly. And after 90 days, additional steps to collect payment will be taken. And that's usually everything that I put into a new client email. And it's slightly different if they want grading. I tweak everything so the wording is relating to grading. But that way I tell them what I offer, what I can offer for their pattern, like how, what I can do for their pattern. and then what's expected of my future client. And everything is right there in that first email. And I usually only send that to very new clients. I won't send that every time, but I will if they want an estimate every time. We'll go over that and what they need for the pattern. But once you have a client that is a repeat client, you'll get an idea of what they usually need. Like I have a client that always needs yarn added, or I have a client that always wants me to add a chart because this client doesn't do charts, for example. So does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. But have you ever asked for like a deposit in advance or so, or it's like you always?
I don't, but I don't do very big jobs. Like I know some editors will work on books or things with multiple patterns, like a collection of stuff, and they might ask for a deposit in that case. If it's, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 patterns. In that case, you might want to think about asking for a deposit because your time is tied up with their work. Whereas if it's a client that needs a pattern, say for a shawl edited, it's 2 hours. You know, even the client that fussed and fought about paying their invoice, it really was not that much. It was just, you know, the principle of the thing. So no, I don't ask for deposits up front just because I don't usually work on big collections.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Kathy, you're up.
All right. So this kind of goes back to what Victoria was asking about, but have you ever traded tech edits with other designer editors to kind of build experience?
Yes, yes, and that's a great way. That's a great way to save yourself money as a designer and get yourself some experience, especially working on something that you wouldn't necessarily design yourself. But yeah, maybe that needs to be a request for the database, Sarah, is if you're a designer and you want to trade edits.
Yeah, I would totally sign up.
Well, I
Yeah.
would suggest, are you on Facebook, Kathy?
I am.
So if you go to the Facebook group for either this course or the Tech Editor Hub free Facebook group, you can post an inquiry there. That people do it all the time.
Mhm.
Like, hey, I've got a hat and a shawl pattern that I need tech edited. Does anybody want to trade tech edit?
Mhm.
And you'll have, and then, but I would also be careful who you trade with. I don't mean to disparage anybody's work, but do look at how experienced the other person is and make sure that you're doing like for like and you're not doing a huge load of work for someone. In other words, you're not taking on 3 sweaters and they're only editing a hat for you, that kind of thing. So make sure it's even.
Yeah, that's something that I have done in the past. And it's also a great way to network with other designers, get to know them.
I would say that this is something we don't talk about a lot, but a huge part of my ability to work as a tech editor is to be able to network with other tech editors. This is why we started the Facebook group for this course, is we want you guys to be able to connect with each other, because there may be a point where you need a second editor or you need to get help from somebody for a problem or whatever. It's a huge part of why I'm able to do what I'm able to do, is I'm not working by myself all the time.
Yeah, yesterday I had to ask a question because I had a client that has a tester that says, this isn't right, you need to change the wording on this. And I had never actually heard of, you know, the issue. I don't even know if it is an issue, to be honest, of what she was asking about. So I got on and asked colleagues on the Facebook site, and they were able to give me lots of feedback that I can send on to my client and she can make that choice. But yeah. And you know, the other thing you may want to do just for fun, this doesn't necessarily pertain to any particular question, is write down how you're feeling about taking on new clients and how confident you are with networking, and just tuck it away somewhere. And in a couple years, 5 years, 10 years, pull that out and reread that and see how far you've come with your editing journey.
That's true even in crochet when
Yeah.
you pull out your first finished object, right? Like you look at that thing and you're going, what was I thinking? What was this? It's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. It's always fun to see how far we've come, how much we've grown.
Karen asked about formal contracts. Do you want me to field that one, Melissa? Because
If you would like, I'm sorry, I missed that.
it's in the
I
chat.
missed that question in the
That's
chat.
okay.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Karen, when I started my tech editing business, because of my background, I wanted to make sure I had all my legal bases covered. So I did hire a lawyer to write my contract. And then when I talked to him at length about it, he was just like, if you're working with people from all over the world, this really has no legal ramifications for anything. Because it does within the state that I'm working, like if I'm hiring someone or someone's hiring me and we both live in the same state, but outside of that, it doesn't. But I do know a lot of editors who not working in our industry who use formal contracts because they're working on very large projects, like, you know, 40,000 word books and things like that. So there you can find contracts, editing contracts, like people where you have to use DocuSign and that, but I have not in the, how many years have I been doing this now? Almost 6 years that I've been doing this. I just do a written agreement via email like Melissa does, and I have not had any problem. I just make sure everything is very clear. And the lawyer that I spoke to said that you just need a written agreement. Like, I agree with what you have put out. And that's because they're small jobs. It doesn't need a formal contract. At least that was the advice that I was given. If it's something that you really feel like you want to cover your bases, then you can hire a lawyer. It does not cost a lot of money to have them just kind of review your business setup and make sure you've got your bases covered for where you live.
Sarah, were you the one that pointed me in the direction of a lawyer that's also, I believe, a knitting or crochet crafter?
Yeah. The artist JD, I can put it into the chat.
Okay, I was trying to find the name. She was very, very helpful when I was looking into that. And that's why I ended up doing the same thing as Sarah and just using the verbiage in my email as our unofficial contract. But again, I don't, unless I am working with a third-party publisher, I don't bother with contracts. All right, we might have time for one more question. Does anybody have anything they have the burning desire to know?
Well, I'll shoot one off real quick. You just mentioned third-party publishers. Is it very different working with them versus indie designers?
Yes, yes, because I am the middleman for them. And when I make the edits, I have had some of their designers will come back and tell me they want to fight with me about the math or the grammar or the style guide. You always will have a style guide when you work with a third-party publisher. So that will be an added piece that you'll have to check. Sometimes third-party publishers offer flat rates, like you might get a certain amount of money for a sweater, no matter what level of difficulty the sweater is, or how poorly written or how well written the sweater is. So, you know, and then a lot of times for third-party publishers, you will get all the patterns all at once, you know, and you will spend every waking moment editing to get things done within their deadline. Versus if you're working just with indie, you can pace your schedule how you need it, and you're not working on somebody else's timetable. So, but they're different, but they're both fun.
Yeah.
They're fun, indie versus third party. But, yeah. All right, one last thing. If everybody is has had all their question answered, is anybody actually finished the course? Like you are done the whole thing? Not yet? You're that close?
I'm close to. I've just got to finish up my final homework.
Yeah, I finished with all the lessons. I just haven't finished homeworks. You know,
Okay.
I need to finish because I was like with a lot of things to do, and I have to finish like the last part of the homework. But I finished the rest. And it was great. I really like it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. When you are completely finished, when you're done and you're ready to start the next step of taking clients, if you wouldn't mind giving us some of the feedback on, I believe it's the last module has the link, that helps us to make any improvements that we need to for the next group of tech editors that will be coming through the course. And if you would rather not fill out a form, you'd rather just talk to us face to face, you know, just go ahead and email, send us an email or send us a message through the question link, the main question link, and we will contact you and we'll just chat and we'll see what you thought about the course. But we'd absolutely love to get feedback on what you think works and what you think could use improvement in the course. So Sarah, is there anything else I'm forgetting?
This has been recorded and we're going to go ahead and upload it to the course so you can review and watch it again if you need to.
Yes, and it's going to go out in an email, I believe, next Friday with the Friday Q&A. So it's been very nice hanging out with you all for this hour and seeing all of your lovely faces in person and not just your names on the screen. So thank you guys for joining and thank you for being a part of this course. When you get your first client, be sure to tag us so we can celebrate with you.
Yes, please post in the Facebook group and let us know how we can help you on your journey to having 100 clients like Melissa does.
I don't have 100 in a week. That's 100 all time. No, seriously though, when you get your first client or if you need any help at all, feel free to reach out in the Facebook group for, you know, as long as we have a Facebook group, you guys are part of it.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you guys. You all have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.